Hi, I'm Eamon Fennell. Welcome to the Hot Ball with AIG. On this episode, we're going to be talking to Dublin hero. He's a hero of mine, Collie Moran, about his career, the challenges that he faced, the unfortunate circumstances of which it ended in, but also about what life is like after football for Collie and what he's up to now in regards his sport and career, coaching, and all that kind of stuff as well. So, hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Collie, how are you getting on? It's tough times at the moment. Are you missing sport? Are you getting by without it?
Yeah, I'm missing sport. It's tough times. Obviously, everybody is sticking to the rules. But obviously, this time of the year, usually you'd be looking forward to the championship and following the form and all that. But obviously, based on the latest news, it doesn't look like we're going to have a championship over the course of the summer anyway. Hopefully, there'll be a bit of action in the autumn maybe. But it looks like for the first time, we can ever remember there's not going to be a championship this summer.
Yeah, but what does championship look like for you now? So is it like, are you still doing punditry work? Are you just, because you're doing a bit of, kind of stuff with the newspapers and reporting the games? Are you going to games, or are you just sitting at home watching them with the family, or what way are you going to games now?
No, I still love it. Yeah, I'm still doing a few bits and pieces in media, covering the games in that regard. But really, I look forward to the days. It's a great chance, I suppose, when you're older and you have kids, you don't get to see your friends and your own family as much. So they're great days to follow the Dubs in the summer and to meet up. I meet up with a lot of the Ballyboden lads that I would have played with when I was younger. And they're great opportunities for meeting up with everyone in your family as well. So I think that's what a lot of people will miss this summer, and I certainly will as well.
So the kids will miss it as well.
The kids, yeah, they're a bit young. They haven't really started going to matches yet. But over the next few years, hopefully this quarantine doesn't go on for a couple of years, and they'll get to go to some games. Yeah.
Are you pushing any sport on them? Is it just GA, or are they doing a bit of everything, gymnastics, or?
No, they're young. My eldest daughter is 5. My son is 2, and we have another child on the way in a couple of months. Thank God. Thank you. And so no, to be honest, yeah, I'll introduce them to GAA, but I think I'll introduce them to a lot of sports as well, and other things, other non-sporting things as well, music and whatever else. But I think when I look back when I was a kid, you just do what you love, and you tend to be good at what you love, and you'll keep going back. So I suppose I'll introduce them to everything, and if they stick with the GAA, great. But I think there's plenty of other activities for kids there now these days as well.
But when you were growing up, what sports were you playing? Because I think looking back in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't probably as many activities that are available to kids now. And it was a lot easier to do stuff. Obviously, it wasn't as costly. So when you were coming up, what sports were you playing as a kid?
Yeah, like obviously Ballyboden was my club. I grew up in Knockline, so played hurling and football with the schools and Ballyboden St. Ennis as well, but also played soccer with Knockline United. And we actually had a decent rugby team there in Knockline for a while as well, and I played on that as well. So I loved all those sports really, but I suppose Gaelic football was always my number one love. But and I stuck with that in the end, obviously.
And one of the things that I couldn't get over when I was looking at your record of teams you played for, teams you've actually captained as well, just when you were 21, you were captain of the Dublin 21s, you were playing for the Dublin seniors, you were playing for UCD, and you were obviously playing for Bowden as well. And on top of that, there was an international real series in the mix as well. Like, was that just the most challenging time of your life, or just because you're playing so many games, was it just so fun to be actually just playing games rather than just constantly training?
I suppose it was a very exciting time, just breaking into the Dublin team at the start was just a huge thrill, to be playing with guys that I watched when I was a teenager that were involved in the 95 All-Ireland winning team. It was brilliant just to be involved. It was very exciting. And yeah, as you say, I was on a lot of underage teams at that age as well. So it was quite hectic, and there was often times maybe there was disputes between the different managers about getting you released for this, that, or the other, and that was stressful at the time. But still, look, it was great to be involved in exciting games all the time. Tough on the body and tough, I suppose, when you're a student and that. But still, looking back on it, great times.
But who was on that 21 team that would have stood out for the senior team in later years?
Yeah, so I suppose my last year under 21, Barry Cahill and Andrew and Alan Brogan were on that side. Clucko was there as well, so they were just a couple of years behind me. So we had a talented team at that time. Wayne McCarthy, who would have played with the Dublin seniors as well from Erin's Isle. It was a good team. Got to a Leinster final and were beaten by Meath, unfortunately. So that was the end of that. Obviously, no back doors back in those days.
And like back in the 21 days, like you identified like Alan and Clucko and Barry. Were these people that you just could see at such an early age that were just going to be legends of the game?
Yeah, like I always remember Clucko coming into the Dublin dressing room in particular. He was very young, didn't speak a lot, and that's probably still the same today. But he was only about 18 or 19 years of age. He got his debut against Offaly in 2001 when Davy Byrne was the goalkeeper, got injured, and had an amazing match. Pulled off amazing saves. And Alan, was introduced then. I think the year after that, Tommy Carr was the senior manager at that time, and it was really the year after that. Tommy Lyons brought Alan into the senior squad. I think himself and Barry had the option of coming into Tommy Carr's squad that summer in 2001, but they had more sense and went off to America for a J1 and had a great time. So they both of them came back next year. Tommy Carr was gone. Tommy Lyons was the new manager and was obviously going to blood a few new guys. And at that stage, Paul Casey, Alan Brogan, Barry Cahill, Clucko were all in the starting team and obviously went on from strength to strength.
Just with you and your sheer stature of being a captain, do you regret, now I know hindsight's an amazing thing, but not actually taking that J1 break and going to the States to experience it and see what it's like over there?
I was a bit envious at the time of all my pals from college going to the States and that, but at the end of the day, it was an easy decision to always stay at home and play football for Dublin. That's what I always wanted to do as a young fella, and the opportunity was there to hopefully win an All-Ireland. And I suppose you always would have had the fear if you'd gone abroad or to Australia or whatever for a year and you'd missed out.
But it's hard to say no as well, though, isn't it? Like it's hard to say, like when you're captain and the senior team are looking for you, then you're looking to go on the international rules series for the under-21s as well. Like it's hard to say no to all that as a kid as well.
It is, yeah, and you're very young at that age, and I think things back then were a lot less structured than they are now. You'd like to think there's better organisation between coaches and players are better looked after, but back then it was really a free for all. If anyone could, like one specific example, I remember training over in St. Pat's in Drumcondra with the international rules squad on a Saturday morning, full training match, getting in the car, coming across the M50 and literally walking straight from the car park in Ballyboden out onto the main pitch in Ballyboden to play an under-21 championship match against UCD, Whereas I don't think you'd be allowed to do that now, You'd hope that players are better looked after. But different times, I suppose.
Yeah, different times in many ways, because one of the demand of the games, and I don't think managers really took into consideration the actual impact on the body, but I don't also think they had the science data that we have now to show the load that we're putting through our body in regards to the miles in the legs, the impact on the body, the rehab and recovery plans that are available now. Like, are these all things that if you had access to all of these back then, do you think it would have made much of a difference, if any difference?
Yeah, I think, when you think back, when I started playing with Dublin in the late 90s, the rage was long distance running and running up hills and on beaches and all that kind of stuff, because Mick O'Dwyer was doing it with Kildare, and Ger Loughnane was doing it with the Clare Hurlers, and they were having success and all that kind of stuff. And then as it went into the noughties, then, Armagh really pushed it out in terms of weights and that kind of stuff. And we started in then, but like, when you think back, we were starting to do weights without having a proper core stability and all that kind of stuff, and probably poor technique and all that kind of stuff. Whereas you obviously look at the conditioning of the guys nowadays, you look at the Dublin seniors, and they've been doing it from a young age, getting their core stability right, their technique right. And you'd hope that will stand to them in terms of that it'll give them a longer playing career, and then also they'll be healthier after their football days as well.
Yeah, because like it's one thing to have that information, but it's another thing to use it. Like from your point of view, when you have all these managers looking for you, it is hard to say no. Even if you have access to the load that you're putting through, the frequency of the trainings, the impact it can have on your injuries and all that kind of stuff. Like, still as a kid, you still want to be playing these games and you want to be involved. So unless a manager steps in and actually pulls you and just says, no, it's not the right team for you, you're always going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Like, coming into a Dublin team, having that experience of captaining the 21s, playing international rules, playing on a really successful Sigerson team, when you're coming into the dressing room, you're coming into the setup, what was it like for you walking in on your first day, and who were you looking at, and who were the people around you?
Yeah, I remember. So I was playing with the Dublin Miners in 1998, and we got to a Leinster final, we're beaten, and that summer Tommy Carr had the seniors. They were knocked out in the first round, so he started training for the new season the following year in that summer, if you know what I mean, and started rebuilding his squad. They used to train out in Phoenix Park at that stage, and back then they used to play 3 league games before Christmas, so you were back kind of in the autumn usually. But Tommy wanted to get a good start and bring in young lads, so Shane Ryan was there. I came in at that stage as well. I remember figuring out I was trying to get to the Phoenix Park for training. I was only 18 years of age, so I didn't drive. I got on a number 10 bus that said Phoenix Park on it.
Hoping for the best.
So I thought I'd be in plenty of time, but little did I know that the Phoenix Park was a big place, and the bus stop was a couple of miles from where the Dubs used to train. So my first session I had to apologise to Tommy Carr for being late, so he let it go. But I knew the next night. But sorry, going back to the question, yeah, going in that time into that dressing room, I was in absolute awe. I was 18 years of age, and looking around, I'd never played at that stage. I hadn't played club football for Ballybowden, senior club football. So the guys in the dressing room were only guys I'd seen on TV playing for the Dubs, I'd never played against them in senior club football or anything like that. So looking around, and the roll call, and Jim Gavin, Paul Kern, Desi Farrell, J.O., Brian Steins, and then the kind of younger lads that were big stars at that stage were Wheelo, Ian Robertson, Paddy Christie, there was a lot of talent in that dressing room at that time. So kind of some of the guys from 95, like Keith Barr and Charlie Redmond and all that had retired, around that stage. But there was still a lot of the stars from the 95 team was still involved.
But like, how do you gel into that? So like, what's your mindset going into that in trying to make this stamp? Because like, these lads probably see you as an unbelievable talent coming through with just your pedigree of Sigerson, 21s, international rules. So like, you as a player, what were you trying to do to make an impression with Tommy Carr at that time?
Just train as hard as you could and show a really good attitude, and that you were hungry for it. And I think that's what Tommy was looking for at that stage. He was looking for young guys that were probably going to shake it up a bit, and that was it. Just take absolutely every opportunity you could get, and like those first couple of training games and friendly matches and all that, and it was unbelievable. Just then that first league game was that October, and I got a few minutes at the end against Tyrone. 18 years of age, like it was just such a huge thrill for me at the time.
18 playing like senior and you hadn't played club. That's like really unlikely ever to happen again.
Yeah, it's unusual. It's unusual, all right, yeah. But huge thrill, as I said, yeah.
So, like, coming then into it, I wouldn't say the latter stages of your career, but like towards the Tommy Lyons era, what was the changes that you noticed within the team then? Because obviously Tommy tried to put his stamp on the game and tried to implement some new structures, and obviously paid off in 2002. But what did you see as the real changing point within the Dublin dynamic to start winning Leinsters again?
2002 was just a wonderful season, like I'd say it's hard if you were to explain it to teenagers now that are on the Dublin development squads, what it was like playing for Dublin back then. Like when I won that championship with Dublin in 2002, at that stage, I'd played 2 years minor, 3 years under 21, and I think that was my fourth or fifth season with the senior squad. So it was 9 attempts to win a Leinster Championship medal, when you add them all together, and that was my first one. So that meant so much to the team to make the breakthrough, and really to beat Meath in the Leinster semi-final that year was the big one, because we were big underdogs. We hadn't had a good league that year. Tommy had been doing a lot of experimenting and bringing young guys through, so we weren't really expected to do much. We'd been lucky to get over Wexford in the first round down in Dr. Cullen Park in Carlow. So there wasn't a lot of expected. And then it took off. Ray Cosgrove had the season of his life. I think he scored 626 or something like that. And Alan was just instantly became a superstar, showing his skills. And then, we nearly got to an All-Ireland final and narrowly beaten by Armagh. But it was, to get to Leinster that year was a huge deal.
But like you pointed it out there, beating Meath and just the lift that gave you, like that. Like I got brought on in 2005, and even the battles we had between 2005 and 2010 after they beat us in Leinster, it still was such an unbelievable game because of the games we grew up on as fans. So like when you were playing Meath, no matter what, your game went up like that, and I had to go up like that because just of the sheer challenge in Meath. Do you miss that? Like, it's such a shame that competitiveness isn't there anymore, because like you still talk about it as the turning point in 2002.
Yeah, like they were just fiercely competitive matches, and no matter what you did in the games up to a Leinster Championship game against Meath, that was kind of how you were judged on it, because everybody knew that it would be another level in terms of intensity and physicality and that kind of stuff. So, even coming through as a young player, you kind of felt you hadn't really done it until you'd done it against Meath. So that, they, the year before that, in 2001, they'd been to an All-Ireland final. They'd still a quality team, Trevor Giles, Graham Geraghty, Darren Fay, all these lads. So they're still a quality team.
But like, these lads were great footballers, but they're also really tough footballers. And I've had this conversation with numerous lads over the years about you. And even looking at some of the reports when I was kind of researching this interview, the likes of Pillar, the likes of Tommy Lyons and Pat Gilroy, like the comments they all said about you was leader, played with his heart in his sleeve, honest footballer. Like, you played the game very physically, and put your body on the line on numerous occasions. And I actually remember one moment in an Oborn Cup against Meath, you absolutely flattened the fellow with your shoulder and your hip. I forget who it was, but he was taken off straight away. Like, I'd kind of say you were that player that went for the player first and ball second. I don't know if that's a fair call now, but it's just how I perceive it. Do you think playing like that had the impact on your career in regards to your injuries and all that?
I don't think, like, I always loved the kind of physicality of the game, particularly around the middle third. I spent kind of half of my Dubs career as a half back, the other half probably as a wing forward. But
I want to talk about that later on, but go on.
Okay, but basically, and again, the game has changed, but back then you would have been there for a lot of the noughties as well, and the game was about all kickouts went along to the midfielders, to you or Darren Omer or Kieran Whelan or Shane Ryan, and the likes of me in the half-back line or half-forward line. Your breaking ball was your key statistic at the end of the game, because if your midfielder was catching a few and your half-backs and your half-forwards were doing well on the breaks, you had pretty good chance of winning the game. So like I always liked that physicality. Probably the injury that ultimately stopped me was probably a hip injury, which probably wasn't, because of impacts and tackles and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I probably trained hard and did maybe foolish training that wasn't the right training, that probably didn't help my cause. But no, in terms of like the physicality and the hits and all that, I always enjoyed that.
Because you did play in various different lines, like you were full back, wing back, centre back, wing forward. Like when you look back on your career,
I actually played one or two championship games as corner forward, believe it or not. As well. So the only line I didn't play was midfield.
Yeah. Where was your favourite position then? Because you're a bit of a John O'Shea.
I know it was always half back line, but it was just the kind of the way Dublin was. I think for a lot of years there was probably a need for me in the half forward line more so than the half back line. But yeah, my preferred position would have always been in the half back line.
Because if you look at today's game, like when you were kind of playing, a half back was a half back, a half forward was a half forward. Like in today's game, to a certain extent, positions don't mean as much. Like you could have a half back playing wing forward and he's still going to do the same role. So like,
yeah,
when you were playing, do you think just having that, being fixated with that role kind of had a detrimental effect to the team's performance, that we were just too rigid in our line now and our approach to the game, and we should have been playing with this more fluid kind of style?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because like a lot of people during lockdown here in quarantine, I've been clearing out the shed and the attic and everything, and actually wardrobes, everything. And actually I found up in the attic a big bag of old DVDs and all that kind of stuff. So obviously you can't go out, so I threw one of them on, and looking back at the game, you just look at how naive we were, in terms of that Dublin team. And look, you were there for a lot of it. It's not as if we didn't have lots of meetings with whiteboards and flip charts and all that, like discussing tactics. But like when I look back on the game, I was just going, God, we're so naive. The way, we'd be a few points up, and instead of just sitting back and counter-attacking the way the Dubs would now, we were just completely playing 15 on 15 and leaving gaps at the back, when all we had to do to win the game was not concede a goal, So looking back, and some of the decision taking, option taking, that kind of stuff. Like when I look back on it, I was going, God, what were we thinking? But look, I think that's the game develops, and I think even though we think the Dubs are perfect now and they're doing everything right, and they are, but I think in 10 years' time, look, there'll be new coaches with new ideas, and the thing will have moved on again, and that's the beauty of football, I suppose. It evolves.
Yeah, and it's evolving at such an alarming rate in ways. Like, when you look at the current crop of players, and just their ability to maneuver, change the game, adapt to different scenarios. I'm talking about obviously specifically the Dublin team now, but it's kind of like there's a freedom there that they've nearly understand what's developing in front of them, and they can adapt and change just by what they're seeing. Where kind of like you, my dad was watching a few games there recently, just threw them on DVD and rang me and just gave out yards to me for just hanging around in the middle and not doing anything to win kickouts. So it's kind of like that's what we were instructed to do.
He needs to get over it, Eamon.
No, I'll never please that Matt. But yeah, you kind of when you look at the style of play now, you can nearly see how the patterns are starting to form. And as you kind of said, new managers, new selectors are obviously going to have their approach on how that should change. Do you think Desi's backroom team, like because you'll know a few of them, obviously with Clarkey, do you think they'll bring a new dynamic to the current setup?
Yeah, I think Desi and all his selectors, they're around a long time. They're very experienced, so they'll know. I think that if you just try and repeat what you've done in the past, what Jim has done with them over the last few years, the other teams are going to catch up. So you have to keep evolving, keep bringing in new talent, new tactics, new surprises. And I think they'll do that. I think they'll be very conscious as well, though, that obviously they've inherited a squad that was doing an awful lot of things right. So they don't need huge radical changes. But look, I suppose that's really what we've missed this spring was, following Desi's new dubs in the league. And, that's what the league is all about, looking to see, can you spot the emerging young talent that's going to make a difference later in the summer. So we obviously missed that over the last few weeks. But I think there's good talent coming through there, and Desi is the right man for the job, and can't wait to get watching them again.
But he hasn't reached out to you yet, has he?
No.
Your phone's on. I
think I'm too old to play at this stage, Eamon.
Because you did try it. Like, I wouldn't say you tried it. Like, obviously, the injury happened in 2009 and you were forced to retire. And you were involved in 2010 in the backroom team. It was obviously going to be really tough to step into the backroom team just after finishing. But now, looking at it, after having a bit more time to think, start a family, all that good stuff, is it something that is on the horizon, or is it something that you just kind of say, no, I enjoyed my time as a footballer and I'm happy out just going with the underage now?
Yeah, like it was great. I kind of retired around this time of the year. It was mid-season in April, I think. And Pat Gilroy, it was his first season, and he asked me to stay on as the mayor for it. And I suppose I knew a lot of the lads well. It was his first year. He was maybe getting to know some of them, and it was great to stay involved, to learn from him and look at his managerial style. He was obviously a brilliant leader, and then obviously to work that year with Mickey Whelan and watch and learn from him, and his years and years of experience was brilliant. But I did find, and look, I was determined to help the lads that I played with any way I could as a coach, and to help them hopefully win an All-Ireland. But it was difficult. I did find it difficult, probably going straight from playing with the lads and then into the backroom team with the management at that stage. So at the end of that, I went back and started again with the Dublin development squads, which was great fun, and I really enjoyed.
Yeah, because like it's hard to distance yourself when you've been like a captain with the senior team. You've led the line. I think everyone on that team had so much respect for you, and they were delighted to see you around. But also the challenge then of separating yourself from player to selector, that must be like seriously tough. Just to kind of go through that in the space of a year as well.
Yeah, it was. And look, I think, being honest, can you be completely objective in that scenario, going, straight from a teammate with fellas to being a selector? Maybe not. It's tough. And even look, whatever about the coaching side, even on a personal level, it was tough to be around watching on the sidelines when you know you couldn't play yourself. That was tough. And then there was another part of me. I'd been in the squad for about 11 years. It had dominated my life, gave everything to it, and was happy to give everything to it. But it was just, I think that, you know, even as a selector, there's a huge amount of time involved. And at that stage, I just wanted to, I think, do other things in life as well and pursue other things. So it was good. I needed a break from it as well, I think.
Well, it seems you pursued a lot there, starting a family, 2 kids, one on the way. So you were keeping yourself busy anyway.
Yeah. It's and the years have flown, you know, and that's when you look back on inter-county football, you know, you wonder, where did you ever get the time to do it all? But it's amazing. Look, when you're under pressure, it's amazing what you can achieve, and being efficient with your time, it's amazing what you can do.
Looking back on your career, Collie, like,
yeah,
you've had just an amazing career, and I think when people do take the time to look at everything you achieved, it's remarkable. Like, you know, to think coming up through the minors, the 21s, captaining, Dublin under 21 senior, Railway Cup, international rules 21 senior, like huge achievements, all-star nomination. What was the highlight for you? Like, I'm sure there was a few, but like, is there one moment that stands out over all of that 11-year span?
Yeah, a pretty easy one, to be honest with you, Eamon. I think, you know, in 2003 and 2004, we had a very difficult season, beaten in Leinster by Laois, then beaten by Paddy O'Shea's Westmeath in 2004. Tommy was gone at the end of that season, and we were really in the doldrums. And actually, during that summer 2004, when we were getting ready for the back door, you know, I had a serious injury in a challenge match against Limerick out in St. David's one Saturday morning. So I broke my left upper arm, the humerus, in 3 clean places. So, you know, I had 11 pins and metal plates put into it that are obviously still in there today. But I was out for 8 months after that, and it was a lot of really bad damage. Like, it was 3 clean breaks of the bone. So the bone was under a lot of pressure. So I, you know, took a long time to get back. 8 months later, I got back playing. So probably 2004 was a low for me personally, and then for the team as well. And then Pillar obviously took over as manager. You were there in 2005, and you know, he started rebuilding it, and the confidence of the squad was on the floor, like. But he started rebuilding it, and, you know, it was built around kind of work ethic and team spirit and pride, putting a bit of pride back in the jersey. And we got back that year and then got to a Leinster final. And it looked like it was going against us in that. I think Chris Conway from Laois, we had started really well. And, you know, there was a lot of criticism of us over those years in the media that we were bottlers, and we had started very well again. And Laois had come back into it, and Chris Conway, I think, hit a point with a few minutes to go to put them 2 up, and it looked like, you know, we'd blown it again. And then I was playing half back at that stage. I got up for a point, and then Mossy kicked 2 unbelievable 45-metre free kicks to win it. And that was back in the day when pitch invasions were allowed, and it was just, you know, it was epic, you know, full house in Croke Park, pitch invasion. And, you know, I think particularly, as I said, for where the team had come from really 2 bad years when we were getting really, you know, huge criticism in the media, you know, really, really heavy stuff. And then, as I said, for myself to come back from the injury and win that Leinster title, that'll always be one that sticks out for me.
And like, for me, just coming into the team, I still have that vision of Darren Holman with the ball at the end of the game, like running off with joy. And I think Davy Billings highlighted this in St. David's about 5 days after the game, where he was running on one way and we were all running with him. And the Laois lads were all on the ground on their hands and knees, and the line divided us. but it was like an epic picture, and I still have it somewhere in my Horza collection. But
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. And then Sunday night was a great night after the game. Monday night was a great night after the game. Tuesday night, Wednesday night. And I actually went training on Thursday, half expecting to go to the Goblet for a few points as well. It kind of was one of them things where Leinster meant so much,
Yeah.
and you look at it now, it's really hard to try and draw a crowd for Leinster games, and just the euphoria of them days. There's going to be nothing like that for a while, I don't feel. Do you get that as well?
Yeah, it is sad, like, going in there to the Leinster Championship some days and you look around and the place is half empty, and through no fault of the Dubs, over the last few years the matches haven't been close. The Dubs have been doing their job. I think the other counties in Leinster need to step up and get back to being solid Division 1 teams again, which they really haven't been over the last 10 years. But yeah, there is a bit of sadness that the Leinster Championship isn't what it used to be. But just thinking back there to Laois and Westmeath, I got a phone call from my brother one day there a couple of months ago. He was in Eason's, and his son picked up, there's a book out that has all the stats on the Dublin football team, and his son, my nephew, was flicking through it, and he said he was going through the stats at the back, and he was checking for mine now. And he went, "Dad, you won't believe it. Laois beat Dublin in 2003." And then he looked and he went, "No way, Dad. Westmeath beat them in 2004. This must be a joke." So obviously, kids growing up now couldn't imagine what Leinster was like. But like when you look back at Leinster back at that time, Offaly won it in 97, Kildare 98, Meath 99, Kildare in 2000, Meath 2001, then the Dubs 2002, then Laois and Westmeath. So you had so many counties, different counties winning it. And obviously, though, the last decade, the Dubs have been dominant,
If I'm ever in a table quiz about GAA, you're the first person I'm going to call then, just rattle them dates, no bother. There's two things I just want to kind of finish with. You had an amazing career playing with amazing players. For you, who was the best player you ever played with? I know, but I need an answer.
Yeah. Like obviously I alluded to it there at the start. There was some of the 95 guys, like Kerner was unbelievable, and lots of others at that stage as well. But to the later stages of my career, as I was finishing, obviously Bernard Brogan was coming through. He was playing well at that stage. Dermo was coming through. He was playing well at that stage. Flinner was coming through as well. They were all in their first kind of 2 years as I was finishing up, and you could see the talents that they were going to be. But I'm going to say Alan Brogan, and on the basis that really, for much of the noughties in our time, in my time, and as well, you were there for a good few of those years, he was really the go-to guy, and he was our top scorer, and he was a finisher, and he was a corner forward. But he went up, after I went, he went up another level. I don't think there's any reason correlation between that, but he went up another level, and particularly in 2011. And he added that extra string to his bow in that when he moved out to number 11, I think he was a playmaker. He was creating stuff, and then he was also tackling. And, he had got several All-Stars before that, during the noughties, because he was a finisher and top scorer and all that kind of stuff. But I have to say, from the stands watching him that year, it was just brilliant to see. He kind of, for me, became the complete footballer because he was doing the other things that he wasn't maybe expected to do, and then obviously, look, the way he finished in 2015 with the point against Kerry, like sports people, it doesn't usually end well for most sports people. But that jammy fecker got a great send off. You know, into the hill, a point like that, unbelievable. So look, and you know, Bernard obviously phenomenal as well. But I think, look, given the way he developed, the overall nature of his play in those last few years of his career, and the way he hung on there as well when he wasn't first choice and all that, you know, he'd only go up in your estimation for the way he conducted himself then. So I'll stick with Alan, yeah. I'm kind of thinking I'd probably put Cluxton in a different category. He's obviously a goalkeeper, outfield player, but I think no player has ever had as much influence on Dublin or the game itself than Cluxton. But I'm splitting it between outfield player and otherwise.
And I think I agree with you on that. Like for me, Clucko is just in a different category when it comes to what he's done for not only Dublin but for the game, and like reinventing a whole position that everyone's trying to look at it differently now, and what he's doing. But 5-time All-Ireland winning captain in a row, like, you know, it's hard to question who the best player is. So,
I'm probably comparing outfield players. Like there's
leave it at that. Leave it. Just keep Alan. Like Clucko's going to get numerous awards from here on in. So we'll say it was Alan.
Yeah.
My last question to you is just about the current crop of players, and if you were still playing on the team, who would you like to play with the most on that team? Like, who do you think you would have bounced off really well and would have complemented your game?
You know, I think playing in a half-back line with James McCarthy would be phenomenal. You know, why I've really liked watching him over the last years. I loved watching him. You know, he always steps up when Dublin are in trouble. You know, he does something. And he's, you know, this Dublin team have different stars on different days and different guys get man of the match. But I think he's really, you know, and there are wonderful talents throughout that team. But I just think, you know, his attitude he's the linchpin, you know, a lot of the times, and just steps up when Dublin are really under pressure and does something, either a big hit or a run or a point and that kind of stuff. Just phenomenal player.
And even to do it like to the level he has, like his performances haven't dipped despite playing centre back, wing back, midfield, kind of whatever has been asked of him, he's done, and he's done it really well. Like, you know, and
yeah,
I think when we look back on this team in the next few years, he'll be one, as outfield players go, is definitely one of the outfield players that stood out for the test of time over a 10-year span, isn't he?
Yeah.
Collie, it's been absolutely amazing catching up with you. We don't do this enough. Lockdown's been good for some things, but look, I've really enjoyed catching up with you, and actually, you know, I really enjoyed researching a bit about your career as well, and going back over all the successes you've had, because it was an unbelievable career and you did a lot for the jersey. And I think people will notice that as well when they start looking at this and hearing your story, but also when they start looking back at the games, when they start rooting DVDs out of their shed or attic or whatever it may be. So, look, thanks for this. Thanks for your time. I hope you got something out of you, enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, no, it was good fun, Eamon. And always good to catch up with you and chat. So I'm glad to see you're keeping well, and hopefully catch up with you soon when ever this lockdown ends.
Hopefully it's not too much longer. But look, stay safe. Say hi to the wife and the kids.
Thanks, Eamon. All the best. Bye-bye.